So let's go ahead and we're going to start to learn how to do this. To do it, the first step in the book explains about what you're going to actually need in order to write a chart. You're going to need a blank chart, and those are in the book. You can copy these blank charts. Number 2, a 3-ring binder really works well, especially if you're doing shows and lots of sets. If you put your charts and you put three holes on the side and put it in a 3-ring binder, you can change out your songs in any order that you need them. If you're doing shows, you can separate those with all the dividers too. And I was doing that a lot too with show bands that I was working with. So you separate your shows. So it really became very useful to have a 3-ring binder. And then, of course, you need a pencil and you'll need a metronome. I would suggest getting a really decent metronome, one that you can see with a light on it. This particular one has a button that you can use for a vibrating button, so that if you're doing church stuff, which is what I'm doing a lot, is that if I press that, it can be really quiet and still feel the pulse. Also, mount your metronome right underneath your hi-hat or right underneath your music stand. I don't know if you can see this, so that it's right next to your chart, so that you can actually see that the metronome marking is both the same, and you're looking in one place. You don't want your metronome on that side and your charts on this side. You want them both on the same side, so you can see them. You need some headphones. Many times when I chart, it's really easy to hear the drum pattern with headphones on, because the drums sometimes are so buried in your mix. So if you use headphones, you can get the real detail out. And then a good CD player or MP3 player. Now we go on to this is a blank chart. I wanted to show you what my blank chart actually looks like, and this is what I created. In the top of the chart, you're going to put your chart name and you're going to put your band name. Always put your time signature, your tempo, and your feel on the upper right-hand side. Always put it in the same place, because if you don't, your eyes are going to go all over the place, especially when the songs are changing and you're trying to fix the metronome at the same time and you're trying to look for all these things. So try to keep yourself really organized and put it in the same spot. The middle of the section here, I created that for the song form. It's like in 3 tiers. The top tier, I wrote the song form, a V for verse or your chorus. I'll write that in the top. In the middle, I wrote the bar number, so it's always corresponding to the song form. It was really fast, it was really quick. Then I created a bottom section called drum instruction. The drum instruction is there for you to write anything that will help you play that chart the correct way. If it means, and I put down if it's supposed to be on the hi-hat and the snare drum, or the hi-hat and a cross-stick rim. You just put little details like that, because you want to start off just exactly like it's on the record. I was in a country band where they wanted me to play it exactly like the record, so I just really put in that detail. And though they probably didn't know if the fills were right, but I don't think it's not necessary. It wasn't necessary for them to know that, but I would just do what I could. So I wrote the drum instruction just for that. Anything. It was like a vocal only, a stop, anything like that, a fill. You use that for yourself so that you can play the chart exactly the way it's on the record that works for you. Then I needed a place to put drum patterns, so I put them at the bottom. Most drum patterns are usually 1 to 2 bars in length. Sometimes they're 4, sometimes they're 8, but most of the time they're really just 1 or 2. So most of the stuff you'll fit at the bottom of the page there. And I'm going to go back and talk about song form too. I want to touch upon, now we're going to use this, you have to work on the 3 things that are important in the upper right-hand side, which is your time signature, your tempo, and your feel. Okay, your time signature, if you don't all know about time signatures, I can give you a real quick definition of a time signature. I found when I was doing all those charts that these 3 time signatures were always the ones that I ran into. There are others, yes, but this was like the most common. I like to talk about what's so common, what fits on one page, what is everybody using. So I found that 4/4, 3/4, and 6/8 was used a lot. How do we read a time signature? If you're not really clear, I'll just tell you real quickly. The top number here can be anything from 1 to 1,000. All it tells you is how many counts in a measure. If it's a 4, count 4. If it's a 7, count 7. If it's a 9, count 9. So that's what that means. The bottom number, though, is limited. It represents a type of note. If it's a 4, as in this, it means quarter note. If it's a 2, it means half note. If it's an 8, it means 8th note. A 16, 16th note. 32, 64. That's all that means. So if you look at it this way, 4 quarter notes to a measure. 3 quarter notes to a measure. 6 eighth notes to a measure. And that's how the time signature works. I'm sure you're wondering, so now I understand about time signatures, but how do you figure that out when you're listening to a song? Well, I found, I'm going to give you all my secrets, I found that if I listened to the placement of the snare drum, that I was able to figure out what feel it was. In 4/4 time, the snare drum always winds up on beats 2 and 4. So it looks like this. It sounds like this and looks like this. 1, 2. That's usually 4/4 time. Looks like that. If it's in 3/4 time, and then the snare drum is usually on beats 2 or on beats 3. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 1. So that's what you'd be listening for. Where's the placement of the snare drum? Here's in 3. Or it can be just on beat 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which I hear a lot of 3 and 3. I hear this ride cymbal a lot. In 6/8, the snare drum will fall on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's what you'll be listening for, if you're trying to figure out the time signature. So I put together some songs so that you can hear some songs with these feels in them. This is 4/4. The snare drum's on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. So it gets really simple. Looks like this. In 3/4. Don't beat 3.
This road I'm on is gonna end.
1, 2.
It's been my
In 6/8, it's only going to be 4. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5, 6. 5, 6. So now you've heard it, and it also helps to see it. So now you know what you're trying to find when you're doing time signature. It'll only take you a few seconds to figure this out. The next thing you need to do is work on your tempo. Like I said, you have a good metronome. So the way you work this particular metronome, and a lot of them do, is there's a tap button. So you press your tap button, you play your song, and then you tap it into the metronome, put back the click, and then line up the click. And I'll show you how to do that.
the weekend.
Got this song. Have the tap on. I'll tap it. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'll go my click, and I'll start the click right in time.
I need to feel you close to me. I need to have you near me.
Line it up. Start it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So his song is in 105. I got 105 out of that. So that only takes a few minutes to do. So then you've got your metronome. The next is the feel. How do you determine the feel? Well, when I was charting out 96 songs, I found that these were the most common feels that I was running into. This feel is either going to be a straight feel, a shuffle feel, a 3/4, or a 6/8. Now, how do we determine which feel this is? And I found that if I listened to the sound of the hi-hat, especially with the straight and the shuffle, it could tell me if I was what feel it was. In the straight feel, the hi-hat is playing eighth notes, straight eighth notes, and it's like in a rock beat, so it sounds like this. That's a straight feel, eighth notes in the right hand. 1, 2. Versus a shuffle, which is based upon triplets, and it sounds like this. So it's totally different from a straight. Here's a shuffle feel. Straight So you see the difference? So I found if I listened to the hi-hat, I'd be able to figure out if it was a straight or shuffle. Especially if you're playing with a band. If they ask you downtown to come and play and sit in, that's the first thing I ask them. Is it straight or shuffle? I don't care if it's even in 3/4 or 6/8. Is it straight or shuffle? Because if you start straight and the band's playing shuffle, it really doesn't sound good. So you really do want to make sure. So I always say straight or shuffle. That's the first thing. And it's so easy for them to answer you. So tell them that. In the waltz, in 3/4, it can be a triplet or it can be quarter notes. Here's in 3/4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. In some of the recordings, it'd be 1, 2, 3. Right? I still think the snare drum is still the best thing to listen for, but that's what's happening with the right hand on the hi-hat. 6/8, you're listening for the eighth notes.